Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're going to go over all the historical deviations in part 3 of our Let's Talk Lore ChiBi trilogy. This part of our story in the novel revolved mainly around the battle of wits between Zhuge Liang and Zhou Yu, but in essence it was a battle of how to split up the Jin province after the battle of ChiBi, as it was the spoil of war. Now, to gain a better understanding of how the Jin province was split, we first have to take a geography lesson. The map shown here is the 13 provinces, or Zhou, of the Han Dynasty in the year 189. The Three Kingdoms period largely followed the government structures established during the Han Dynasty, so we have provinces, or Zhou, which were subdivided into smaller commanderies, or Jun, which were subdivided into even smaller counties, or Xian. The game Total War Three Kingdoms only deals with commanderies and counties, but in reality it actually blurs the definition of provinces and commanderies. For example, in the game we have Yangzhou, Youzhou, and Jiaozhou as commanderies, when in fact from the wording and historically they were all provinces. And since some of these more heavily populated provinces were all in the north, they were much smaller in size. The game definitely reflects this, as most northern commanderies are made up of a few counties, while southern commanderies tend to be made up of 3 counties. And for probably balance reasons, some of these provinces that were smaller were downgraded to commanderies. And if we look at the highlight on the map, we can see how the population was laid out, and most of southern China is unhighlighted, showing that it's unpopulated, much like the abandoned commanderies in the south in the game. Now, the star of our lore series here is the Jin province marked here. So let's take a dive and take a closer look at the Jin province map. Now we have the commandery map of the Jin province. As you can see, the Jin province itself is made up of 7 different commanderies. From north to south, we have Nanyang, Jiangxia, Nanjun, Wuling, Changsha, Linling, and Guiyang. All 7 of these commanderies play a part in our lore series, so let's talk about each one of them. Before the Battle of ChiBi and following the death of Liu Biao, Liu Cong surrendered the entire Jin province to Cao Cao. So on paper, Cao Cao owned all 7 commanderies. But in reality, we know that Cao Cao never made it across the Yangtze River. So he only controlled Nanyang and the northern half of Nanjun. But luckily for him, Nanyang was the richest commandery in China at the time. This fact is also well reflected in the game, as Nanyang has a super valuable jade mine county. Meanwhile, Liu Bei escaped from Cao Cao and gained control of Jiangxia with the help of Liu Biao's eldest son, Liu Qi. The other 4 southern commanderies of Wuling, Changsha, Linling, and Guiyang were spared from the Battle of ChiBi and remained in the hand of former Liu Biao loyalists, who were too busy dealing with bandits and other issues to care much about the Battle of ChiBi itself. Now, we have already talked about what happened during the Battle of ChiBi in part 2 of our lore series, so let's jump ahead and talk about the aftermath of the battle for each side. Liu Bei, who did not contribute very much to the battle itself, was only given a small city called Gong'an on the south bank of the Yangtze River to reside in, as Zhou Yu's forces took control of Jiangxia. We refer to this side as Youjiangkou in our lore series, as it was technically called that because it was situated in the mouth of a river called Youjiang. And this was the place that Liu Bei garrisoned his troops in the novel, as Liu Bei threatened to take Nanjun himself. This prompted Zhou Yu to rush his own attack on Nanjun, as he bet with Zhuge Liang that he can take this city from Cao Ren's hand. But in history, Zhou Yu basically assigned Liu Bei this small city as his reward for his small contributions in battle. Liu Bei obviously feels slighted by this, but he never wanted to attack Cao Ren in Nanjun himself, as Cao Ren still had a very large force. Zhou Yu, however, really wanted to gain control of Nanjun following the Battle of ChiBi, so he launched an all-out attack on Cao Ren, who was tasked with defending the city of Jiangling, which was a key port city in the south. The historical details of the attack is very similar to that in the novel, as Cao Ren did have a general named Niu Jin, who took charge of Zhou Yu with only around 300 men. They were quickly surrounded by a much larger force, but unlike in the lore series where Cao Ren goes out and was also trapped within this encirclement and had to rely on Cao Chun's elite cavalry to be rescued, Cao Ren in history was an exceptional general, as he personally led with only about 10 riders to charge into Zhou Yu's encirclement, cut an opening for his surrounded men to escape, not once, but twice in this battle. So Zhou Yu had a hard time beating Cao Ren, as the siege for Jiangling would last over a year. This bought Cao Cao valuable time to regroup in the north. Now, while Zhou Yu was busy fighting with Cao Ren, Liu Bei rallied behind Liu Qi's name as he gained control of all 4 southern commanderies. The key historical difference here is that this chain of events happened right after the Battle of ChiBi, as Liu Bei was unhappy with just being given a city. And this event was a peaceful integration, as Liu Biao loyalists largely saw Liu Bei and Liu Qi as the rightful owners of the Jin province. After Liu Bei had established himself, he went back north to help the struggling Zhou Yu, who was still battling with Cao Ren. He let Zhou Yu borrow Zhang Fei to lead the offense against the city of Jiangling itself, while he and Guan Yu took out key supply routes west and north of the city to isolate Cao Ren. It was through Liu Bei's effort and not Zhou Yu's that ultimately forced Cao Ren to abandon the city and retreat back to Nanyang Commandery. And because of Liu Bei was a big help at this fight, after the victory against Cao Ren, Liu Bei took control of the south bank of Nanjun, while Zhou Yu took control of the north bank. Zhou Yu was also injured in this war, and it was also an arrow wound like in the lore series, but it was not poisonous or life-threatening. Now, Cao Cao had a much bigger force in Nanyang, so it was impossible for either Liu Bei or Sun Quan to take that commandery away from him, as it was very valuable. But they were content with the result of forcing Cao Ren out of Nanjun. So at this point, we can say that Cao Cao is largely out of the picture in the Jin province. Now, there were also disagreements in terms of strategy within the Wu court about how to go forward. Zhou Yu wanted to continue to attack west, as they had control of the Yangtze River now through the control of this key port city of Jiangling. Zhou Yu wanted to sail west, take control of the Yi province as well, from the hands of a weak Liu Zhang. Unlike the lore series, where Zhou Yu was goaded into this decision, historically, Zhou Yu really wanted to do this, as he imagined Wu to be able to gain control of the entire southern half of China to resist the northern half of Cao Cao. Zhou Yu's idea to attack west was staunchly protested by Liu Bei, who had wanted that land for himself. But without the control of the north bank of Nanjun Commandery, Liu Bei didn't have the control of the river to launch an attack himself. However, luckily for Liu Bei, Sun Quan also disagreed with Zhou Yu on this matter. Sun Quan wanted to attack north towards Hefei, as he saw that as part of the Yang province that he controlled. Sun Quan also saw this as the best time to attack a weakened Cao Cao, as Cao Cao was busy dealing with Ma Teng in a war in the Liang province far to the northwest. Now, obviously, when the admiral disagrees with the Lord is going to win. So Sun Quan decides to gift his sister to Liu Bei after hearing that Liu Bei's first wife, Lady Gan, has died, to cement this alliance and to free his hand to attack the north in Hefei, much to Zhou Yu's protest. So now we come to the gossip portion of our lore series as we talk about the marriage of Liu Bei and Lady Sun. Historically, Lady Sun was packaged and shipped straight to Liu Bei. So Liu Bei never had to travel down south into danger to secure this marriage. Lady Sun and Liu Bei were also not happily married like described in the lore series. As you can understand, this was entirely a political marriage between a girl in her 20s and a man nearing his 50s. Now, to be fair, Lady Sun was probably not a catch in those days, as the prime age for marriage for girls was between 13 and 16. So the fact that she was unmarried in her 20s signaled that no one really wanted her. But on the flip side, Liu Bei was nearing his 50s, so neither side loved the match. Historically, Lady Sun did like martial art and warfare and had over 100 armed maids with her. The maids often harassed Liu Bei, as Lady Sun was not keen on consummating this marriage. Lady Sun was also a bit spoiled, as she grew up as the younger sister of Lord of the South essentially, so she and her maids often bullied people in town to the point where Liu Bei was forced to send Zhao Yun in to arrest and control Lady Sun's maids. Zhuge Liang even famously noted to Liu Bei that his 3 biggest threats are Cao Cao, Sun Quan, and Lady Sun. All this led to Lady Sun and Liu Bei to live in separate cities, and when Liu Bei marched west to attack the Yi province in the future, Lady Sun did not follow, and instead chose to sail back east and return to Wu, where she would disappear from the history books. Speaking of history books, Lady Sun, like all women back in those days, did not have their full name recorded in these history books. So Sun Ren was definitely not her name as dictated in the game. The reason her name is often mistaken as Sun Ren because her mother was recorded to have one boy and one girl named Lang and Ren. So people assumed Sun Lang must have been the boy and Sun Ren must have been the girl. But in fact, both named Lang and Ren were referring to the son, who were known by two different names, as girls' names were not recorded. But regardless, this marriage was really not a pivotal moment for Liu Bei, as he never had to go south for a wedding. However, that part of the story was not entirely made up, as there were some historical backings. As a year after the marriage, Liu Bei did personally travel south to try to negotiate a trade deal with Sun Quan. Liu Bei, who now wanted to target the Yi province to the west, needed control of the northern half of Nanjun. So he offered a trade deal to Sun Quan, as he was willing to give up the eastern half of Changsha over to Sun Quan in return for the northern half of Nanjun. As you can imagine, Zhou Yu was against this idea, as he wanted to attack west, and he also felt that he was injured trying to capture Nanjun. So he asked Sun Quan instead to imprison Liu Bei in the south and backstab him while Liu Bei was here. But unfortunately for Zhou Yu, Sun Quan was against this plan. And even more tragic, Zhou Yu passed away at a young age to illness in the same month that Liu Bei arrived in the south. Sun Quan was receptive to the deal, as he had just been defeated by Zhang Liao at Hefei. He needed time to regroup to try again, so he had no energy or manpower to attack west. He also didn't like the idea of keeping an army out in Nanjun, as Cao Cao is his border to the north. So giving it to Liu Bei would throw this problem to Liu Bei. Lu Su, who took over in Zhou Yu's place after Zhou Yu's death, also favored this deal, as he believed Wu was not yet strong enough to deal with Cao Cao alone. So helping Liu Bei get stronger would also essentially help Wu. So he pushed for this deal to go through, and even became the administrator of the eastern half of Changsha that was received in the deal. So technically, Liu Bei never borrowed the Jin province from Sun Quan, as he took the southern half himself and gained Nanjun through an equal trade. So this is why when Sun Quan eventually backstabs Guan Yu to retake the Jin province in the future, Liu Bei becomes furious that he would abandon his attacks on Cao Cao to turn around and attack Sun Quan instead, as he felt super betrayed by this longtime ally. Now, at the end, we have to talk a bit about Wu's setback after the Battle of ChiBi, as there were plenty of them. Both Zhou Yu and Sun Quan struggled in their fight against Cao Cao. A lot of this is due to the strength of Cao Cao's forces, but some of this could be contributed to some untimely death on Wu's side. Some of their best generals died around this period. Taishi Ci, who the lore series claimed to have died at Battle of Hefei against Zhang Liao, actually died before this battle due to old age. He actually didn't even participate in the Battle of ChiBi, as he died in the year 206, 2 years before the Battle of ChiBi. So he never got the chance to fight at Battle of Hefei against Zhang Liao. If he did, maybe things would have ended differently. Zhou Yu, as we all know, died at a very young age as well after the Battle of ChiBi. Sun Quan also lost 2 younger brothers who were key generals around this time to illness as well. And lastly, Huang Gai, who was the hero at the Battle of ChiBi, also died of old age soon after the Battle of ChiBi itself. So as we can see, Wu had a huge talent drain right around this spectacular victory at ChiBi. So perhaps he can explain some of the setbacks they suffered. Although personally, I think it's mainly because Sun Quan was a decent administrator, but a terrible battlefield commander, as he would launch repeated failed attacks on Hefei even when he had superior numbers. Anyways, those stories are for another time, as we have finally wrapped up our ChiBi Let's Talk Lore Trilogy series after a full 30 episodes. Hope you guys enjoy the stories, and stay tuned for more Let's Talk Lore in the future. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye!